All right, folks. So this is Acid Roots. I'm going to review Megan the Stallion's 2020 EP, which was Suga. So, to know about Megan the Stallion, she's had a number of hits to her name across the past few years. I've been paying attention since about Hot Girl Summer, and there was like a couple ones off of Fever, her 2019 mixtape. But she's been in the headways, increasing more and more every single year since about 2018 or so. And I feel like it's about time to start reviewing some of these projects just to see the hubbub about what's going on. To see, because there's been the TikTok challenges, there's been the remixes, there's been um, the Instagram cameos and the hype and all that sort of stuff that's gone on. I mean, if you have not heard about Megan the Stallion in some way because of rap and you're a fan of rap music, it's pretty difficult to not know who she is at this stage. And she's done well. And I mean, in my opinion, she's overshadowed Cardi B and Nicki Minaj in recent years. It's been her. And, she's young. That's the thing. She's like 25, 26 right now. So, it's kind of thing. It doesn't change that this project is nowhere near terrific, though. I'm going to call it like I see it. Savage is the best song and the best thing about this project. And there's no other song that comes close other than Captain Hook to capturing that magic and energy that you hear in that song. And there's really not much to speak of in terms of other highlights out of the 9 songs that you hear. I mean, if it would have just been 6 songs or something, I might have given her the benefit of the doubt that she was just trying to rush this out. But there's 9, and that's kind of the thing. That's basically an album. It's basically an LP. So there's no excuse for only having 2 songs out of 9 that are actually that quality. But here's the thing about it. I mean, her relevance is so large at this point that I feel like it's not like she has to put out classic projects, but it is kind of a disappointment if you are a collector or something like that and you want to be able to find like some album cuts and other things to talk about just beyond Savage. I mean, it just kind of goes in with the mindset that the only song that you probably will like will be Savage. And that's kind of disappointing. I mean, there are other singles, but we'll get to the reasons why. So, yeah, basically, the first single out of 3 on this album was BITCH, which is a revamp of Tupac's Rather Be a Nigga from All Eyes on Me, which is basically one of his best albums, and that's a pretty stellar song. I was always a fan of it. And in that, Tupac and Richie Rich basically talk about, laying the Mac down on a couple females and saying, out of between you and your actual boyfriend, I'm probably the better pick, and you should probably be hanging out with me more and maybe eventually ditch that dude. And that's kind of the situation. It was a good angle for Tupac, especially back in the 90s, but Megan the Stallion's version of it kind of adds like a female response that probably didn't need a response. I mean, you look at it, I just don't like sometimes when there's female response songs, they do come off as like creative, but I couldn't really figure out the angle. Mostly just Megan the Stallion saying like, "Hey, I'm kind of a wild personality. I get money and I'm real and I keep it real. And if you don't like it, too bad." And it just didn't really feel like that translated into the essence of needing to be a song. I mean, for women who kind of want that sort of empowerment, but there's really no other reasoning behind that song other than empowerment. This is kind of the situation. But Captain Hook, that fares a lot better. That's a real good twerking song, strip club song, dancing song. Just overall, I mean, that's probably a better party song than the song Savage, which is just a highlight. But so Captain Hook, I mean, it gets nasty. I mean, it definitely has everything that you're looking for a night out. That's definitely a weekend song. And I get the feeling that Megan the Stallion could probably drop like a whole album of these type songs if she wanted. This is something she's good at, is doing these kind of twerking songs and booty shakers and that sort of shit. And that just kind of happens to be a thing. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that I'd want a full album, but probably it wouldn't have been too terrible if she had done that. So that's just kind of the situation. It shows a hint of saying Megan the Stallion could, probably drop some real more songs like the ones that she's been dropping if she wanted. But unfortunately, the shit we get that I kind of have to eat my words here and eat crow a bit, because the stuff that she did give us proves that there just is a lot of lousiness. But yeah, the third single is Savage, and this is the best song on the project. It was a surprise hit, and it morphed into a single, then eventually got a Beyonce remix and hit #1 on the Billboard 100. So it's a pretty massive song, and that's the thing. It has so much success. I mean, I'd have to say and go with that old saying that if you haven't heard this song within the past year, you've probably been living under a rock, or you're just completely not a fan of rap music. But as far as that's actually kind of concerned, it is a highlight, and I just feel like Megan the Stallion's energy was so effortless in the song, and it had like some skill to it. I liked the lyrics; they were kind of saucy, but not to the point where you didn't like them for it. And it was just supposed to be kind of like, hey, once again, I mean, it's mostly from the her kind of angle is from the female angle, saying, these rap dudes who have all this drip and all this personality and charisma, kind of saying, women kind of have that too. And it wasn't in the sense of like, you're not going home with me tonight, but it was still kind of in the sense of like, hey, I'm kind of a bad bitch, and I know a good man when I see one. But I mean, that's just kind of the thing. It didn't bother me as much as like some of the other songs on this project, but it was meant for radio, I definitely feel like. So that's 2 out of 3. I'll give her 2/3 of the singles. But yeah, to get to the rest of this project, there really was not very many highlights whatsoever. I mean, the Neptunes and Timbaland gave Megan Thee Stallion some bad beats, and well, Stop Playing wasn't a bad beat, but it was still a lousy song. The last 3 songs on this project give like an attempt at like the Don Tolliver, Future, and there's another one. Don Tolliver, Future, and Nav, the way that they kind of do like that trap R&B. That's kind of what Megan the Stallion does, but it really did not amount to anything. I mean, I felt like the beats were lousy, the singing was not much better, and the topics, I don't know. I mean, I pretty much, I mean, some of these really kind of lacked like substance to the point of, and I don't mean like lyrical substance, I just mean substance as in taste. I don't know. I mean, it just feels like you can obviously tell that these were not meant to be singles, and they felt like very mediocre attempts at trap even. I mean, in some cases, like I feel like Future, when he is making songs that are not singles, you can still at least kind of say that these are decent. These are just meant for like off days and days where you're not, making your main type things that you're doing. But it just didn't feel like that. I mean, they felt kind of confused and just not really having any sort of direction. And it's the same thing with Rich. I mean, I felt like Rich could have been like the next Savage, but it was too short, and it just felt like more of like a skit song. This kind of like, I don't know why it was only a minute and 30 seconds. I mean, that probably could have been a song. I don't think it would have changed anything if it had been like 2.5 minutes and put like more effort into it. It probably, I would have thought that it being longer probably would have helped it a lot more. So, but then Hit My Phone was more of like a Kalani song, and she's been kind of on a lot of hooks, and she does decent, but it felt like kind of West Coast, and that wasn't Megan the Stallion either. I mean, really, she tried some new things. That's kind of the thing about this album, is she's trying things to kind of see how she does. But it kind of almost makes me believe that Megan the Stallion is kind of a gimmick rapper, just because most of the songs that you talk about when you speak of her are the songs that you hear on the radio or the challenge songs. So it's kind of like, can she actually put out a cohesive project? Can she actually give us album cuts and get songs that just become highlights out of nowhere, like Doja Cat? She's on like her 7th single now off of her Hot Pink, but I'm just kind of, I mean, I don't feel like there's songs that are going to do that on Suga, and that's just kind of the thing is, um, I mean, honestly, it's not like she's not, I mean, she has the skill to do these sorts of things, but I kind of am curious as to why like her varieties as far as a musician just did not shine through this time. Because even I have to say, whether it's on an EP or an album, most of the time when a musician drops an EP, I can find at least one or two something like that album cuts that are beyond the singles. And when an artist only can do singles, it kind of showcases their lack of like professionalism. And it feels professional still, but not to the degree where it's triple A or double A. It might be like B minus, something like that. But if you cannot get album cuts, especially on an EP, well, if you can't do it on EP, you're not going to be able to do it on an album. But there should be no reason why there were not more highlights on this project. I mean, it doesn't matter that you hit number one. Doesn't matter that, millions of women are twerking to Captain Hook. There should be some other songs that you can do besides that. And this didn't happen. So I'm going to give this album a 2.5 out of 10. I really did not enjoy much of the stuff on here. Rich could have been like a highlight, but it just did not have enough, hit to it. I mean, I suppose probably the more I listen to it, I might be able to give her that one, but it would still be just a third of the project. I did not like BITCH, Hit My Phone, the last three trap R&B songs. The first song, Ain't Equal. I mean, another thing I haven't really complained about is just the lack of of interesting and captivating beats, which is kind of the thing. Savage and Captain Hook are probably the best ones, but it just felt like we're just aiming to get like the dance challenges. It's like that's, like I said before, that's what you should be talking about, is the fact that Megan Thee Stallion is huge on TikTok. I'm going to do the Savage challenge. I'm going to do the Captain Hook challenge. And then you move on. You listen to it for a little while. It just felt very ephemeral kind of music. Like, if you don't know what ephemeral means, it means limited time. Today, here today, gone tomorrow. That is kind of the situation. So, to that end, Megan Thee Stallion wins. But in terms of quality of music and dropping a body of work that we can reference years from now, it did a pretty terrible job. That's just kind of the situation. So, the social score I will give like a 7.5. The social score I'll give a 7.5 out of 10 because Savage hit number one. Captain Hook was a good follow-up, even though it came out before that. And BITCH, I suppose, would work for women more so than males, but I didn't like it. But they all at least got some headway. So that's kind of the situation. So I give her 75% in that, and that's basically the thing. So for me to basically give this a 2 out of 10 in terms of quality of music, but then still not completely hate this musician or hate the stuff that she's done, it kind of shows like, hey, I mean, for me to talk about Megan Thee Stallion as a rapper and the lyrics she says, I mean, she does have personality and she can make songs. It's just the execution of it was pretty subpar. And that's kind of the situation. There's got to be more that has to be able to translate to like bodies of work minus just the TikTok girl.